Okay, Drushim for Yom Kippur, Likkutei Torah, page Samach Ches. Okay, he says, dividing Yom Kippurim to explain the concept of Yom Kippur, because one pasuk says, Shabbos, Shabbos, and Hu Lochem. One pasuk says that it is Shabbos, Shabbos, in the ultimate Shabbos, Hu Lochem, it's masculine. Another pasuk says, Shabbos, Shabbos, and He Lochem, feminine. So the question is Yom Kippur masculine or is Yom Kippur feminine? One pasuk it says Hu Lochem, which is masculine. Another pasuk says He Lochem, which is feminine. Hine Amar Azal Chazal say, Aver al mitzvah says v'shav. If a person, the Gemara says in Yuma, if a person transgresses a positive mitzvah and does tshuva, leizaz misham ad shemeichim lei. As soon as he does tshuva, he's immediately forgiven. He doesn't need anything else. But if somebody transgresses a negative mitzvah, then tshuva makes it hanging, and Yom Kippur forgives. Okay? So seemingly tshuva on a positive mitzvah is easier than tshuva on a negative mitzvah. Positive mitzvah, the second you do tshuva, you're forgiven. Negative mitzvah, you need tshuva and Yom Kippur. So the Alter Rebbe asks, same question he asks in Igeres Tshuva, mitzvah saseh adifa locheira. Mitzvah saseh, a positive mitzvah, is more positive than a negative mitzvah, because the din is esed derech saseh. A positive mitzvah pushes off a negative commandment. If the only way you could do a positive commandment is by desecrating a negative commandment, the Gemara says, they learn it out from Sukkim, that a positive pushes off a negative mitzvah, which means seemingly that a positive mitzvah is stronger than a negative mitzvah. Yeah, when it comes to tshuva, tshuva of a negative mitzvah is more complicated than a tshuva of a positive mitzvah.
What's an example?
The classic example the Gemara gives is Mila B'Tzaras. There's a din in Torah, you're not allowed to, if somebody has leprosy, you're not allowed to cut it off. What happens though if somebody needs a bris, and the leprosy is on the part of the body that you need to cut off for the bris? So now the question is like this: if you do the bris, you're transgressing a negative commandment. But if you don't do it, then you're not keeping the. So the din is, that's the classic example of the Gemara. So the din is esed. So you do the positive mitzvah, even though it's transgressing a negative. There's a number of examples. So therefore you see from that a positive mitzvah seemingly is more important or stronger, whatever. Yet tshuva of a negative mitzvah is harder. So he says, one pasuk says in Malachi, return to me, and I will, Hashem says, return to me and I will return to you. And another pasuk says, Hashiveinu Hashem elecha, v'nashuva, Hashem should return. One pasuk says like this, Hashem says, return to me, and I will return to you. So what comes first? You returning to me, then I'll return to you. Another pasuk, Hashiveinu Hashem elecha. Hashem says, Hashem will return to us, and then I will return to you. So it's an opposite order. Which is the returning of our face to Hashem's face. If the pasuk says, it says when the Jews sin, Hashem says to the Jews, you're turning your back to me, not your face. Even at the time of the sin, you can't say you can't say, the Alter Rebbe says like this, when a person sins, in language we say, they're far away from Hashem. So the question is, it can't mean far because it says, Hashem is all over the place. So if a Jew sins, how could he be far from Hashem? If Hashem's all over the place, he can't be far. So the question is, and here the Alter Rebbe is asking a very powerful question. When a person sins, they eat, God forbid, something not kosher. Who gives them the ability for the hand to pick up the food, to put the food into the mouth, and for the mouth to chew it. Hashem gives him the ability. If Hashem doesn't want it, it's not going to happen. So here we find Hashem is sustaining the person through the duration of sin. So how can you say the person's far from Hashem? Hashem is giving his existence now. So what does it mean, you're far from Hashem? The meaning of it is as follows. Like two people. They're standing physically mamish next to each other. But they're back to back. They're not looking, they don't want to look at each other. Years ago, parents, when the kids misbehave, the parents would say, I don't want to look at you. Today you can't say it because the kids will sue you for causing them depression. But if you're back to back, conceptually, if people turn their back to each other, they are literally the whole world apart from each other. You could be standing physically next to each other, but you're the world apart. And you could be standing at the opposite ends of the world, looking at each other. They're mamish close. So he says, they don't have any closeness of the heart, so therefore, that's what Hashem says. When the Jew sins, Hashem says, the pasuk you just quoted, Pano alai oiref. You turn your back to me. So not chas v'shom, we're far from Hashem. We're mamish standing next to Hashem. Hashem is sustaining us. But we turn our back to him. It's back to back. You're the world apart. So what's tshuva? You turn around. Hashivein Hashem panavei lecha. You turn around and they're back already. Well, be it in Yizat to explain what this means. Yovim Mashakosa V'Shom Rubnei Yisrael Shabbos. The Yidden guarded the Shabbos. Shemitah, right? They guarded the Shabbos. Kihine Inyan HaShabbos. Shabbat Shavas Hashem. The Inyan of Shabbos that Hashem rested. Kishesh Yomim Asa Hashem. As Shemayim Resa'odet. Then 6 days Hashem made heaven and earth. What does it mean? What does it mean Hashem made 6 days of creation? Shehish v'les atzmi kaviyachol. Hashem limited himself, lowered himself. V'tzimtzim ba'asar maimoris. And he constricted himself, he limited himself in the 10 utterances. B'sheish yimei hamayis, in the 6 days of creation, livrei v'lahavis lahachis, to create and to sustain and to give life. Rosh Shvarim, the low things, in the level of Chitzenius Malchus Yisbarach Levad, in Chitzenius of Malchus. Meaning simply as follows. Hashem is infinite. Hashem is infinitely above any concept of world whatsoever. And now all of a sudden Hashem wants to create world. So now Hashem has to limit his infinite power into a finite state to create low lives of creation. Not only world of Atzilus, but even Asiya. And even in this world, Hashem creates evil, the ability to do evil, garbage, manure, all that stuff, yeah? So basically, the whole concept of creation is an extreme limitation from Hashem's part to want to create world. And that's why he says, world is only created from the chitzenius, the external level of Hashem. Like we learned in many places, how did Hashem create the world? Hashem spoke. Hu amar vayeh. Vayomer Elokim, Hashem said, it happened. Now, speech of a person is it's a revelation. You're revealing either a feeling or an intellectual concept or stupidity, whatever, but speech is a revealing aspect. But speech is a very, very limited revelation from the person. For instance, Alter Rebbe says in Tanya Perek Chov, we learned many times, the ability of speech, the Koach HaDibur, the power of speech that a person has is infinite. When you speak 100 words, your power of speech doesn't get less. The power of speech of a human being is infinite power. The only thing is, like we learned for 120 years. 120 years is X amount of seconds. It takes a second to say a word. So practically speaking, we can only speak a limited amount of words. But the power of speech of a person is unlimited. So now, take one word compared to the power of speech. It's one compared to infinite. Now, above speech is thought. So compare the one word to the power of thought, it's even more nothing. Compare that to the 7 emotions, which is higher than thought. Compare that to intellect. Compare that to willpower. Compare that to the essence of Hashem. So one word, Hu Amar Vayahi, or the Gemara says Bereshis, when Hashem said Bereshis Baralikim, everything was created on the first day. That means with one word, Bereshis, Hashem created the whole universe. Now that whole universe is one word, Kaviyachol, from Hashem. And what type of word is it? It's not blowing. When you blow, like by the Neshama, it says Vayipach V'apav. When you blow, you get tired. You can't blow hacking a chinik for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. Blowing, you get tired. Because blowing comes from a deeper level within the person. But talk is very external. So when the person uses the term talking by Hashem, Hashem doesn't have a mouth and he doesn't talk. But what it means, the concept of talking, which means it's a minute revelation. Now the Rebbe says, of Chitzeni is a Malchus. Malchus is speech. Hashem limited himself from the infinite, essential level, which is above finite and infinite, to come down into a limited, finite speech to create the world. So bottom line is, world, as far as Hashem is concerned, is non-existent. It's like one word compared to the essence of the person. So world itself is nothing. Yet we learn to go off a second. When you do one mitzvah, one tiny little mitzvah, you connect to the essence of Hashem, not to the word of Hashem, to the essence of Hashem, which is higher than finite and infinite together. Okay, so Avram Maradi was so inspired, he's sponsoring the class today. For all good things. Okay, so he says like this. From your Malchus is the Malchus of all worlds. Shesav is called Eilamim v'chayusam. That the whole existence and creation of the worlds only comes from Malchus Yisbarich. It's not only Kedimyan HaNeshama Mechayes HaGuf. It's not even like the Neshama that makes the body, that gives life to the body. Shemistabesh b'sechel ha'achiyosei, v'yeshka his pilus mimikri v'shini aguf, and the neshama is affected by the body. Here, Hashem's connection to world is like it says, Ani Hashem le'shenisi. There's no difference by Hashem whether there is a world or isn't a world. It's not like, to give you an example, you put a battery in a toy, yeah, so the battery is changing. Because if the battery had a life, let's say, of 100 hours, now it has, after an hour, it has only 99 hours, right? Or whatever it is. By Hashem, it's so infinite, it's so nothing to do with the world. That level of Hashem, the world doesn't change him at all. Ani Rishon, Ani Achrin, I'm first, I'm last. There is nothing but Hashem. Hashem is not changed by world, because like we said before, one word compared to the power of speech, thought, essence is nothing. Unlike the neshama, that's affected by the body. Because if the neshama, the body gets weaker, or the limb of the person gets sick, then the neshama doesn't reveal itself in it properly.
Sometimes we say Hashem has nothing to do with the war. Sometimes we say Hashem's Parnasa is from the Jew. So which one is it?
You just ruined your own question. Your question should have been, if we say Hashem has nothing to do with the world, but Hashem sustains the world. What you're talking about is a mitzvah. When a Jew does a mitzvah, they connect to the essence. So, that's not a question. Your question is, so how come Hashem, if Hashem has nothing to do with the world, how are there changes in the world? If there are changes in the world, then Hashem is involved in the world. Correct? Yes? In other words, when a person was alive, Hashem had to make the person alive. God forbid the person passes away. Hashem is not giving that person a life. Something, a grass exists, Hashem is making it grow. Then you cut it. So why isn't there a change in Hashem? So the answer is very simple. It depends which level of Hashem you're talking about. Malak Olam and Seivik Olam. And the level of Ani Avai L'Shanisi is not even Seivik Olam, and really. The real Ani Hashem L'Shanisi is higher than Seivik.
But he wants to be here. He created us.
He wants us to bring him here. He doesn't want to be here.
We couldn't exist unless he would distract himself.
Hashem can't exist. The world can't
No,
exist.
we couldn't exist.
We. Yeah.
Couldn't exist.
Because Hashem wants us here.
No, Hashem wanted us to be here.
Yeah. But Hashem wants us to be here to bring him here.
Why?
You hire a worker in your business. Yeah? You want him. You hire him to work. Why do you hire him to work? Because you want the business to run. So therefore you hire him. Hashem puts us in the world because he wants the world to run. He wants to have a dira b'tachteinim. So he puts us here.
Well, we are nothing. We just
No, we are not nothing. The real existence, right, you're right. World is nothing. Is Hashem the real existence? Hashem is the real existence. When we do a mitzvah, we become Hashem. Partner, like we spoke about Hashem. Partner with Hashem in creation. You become one with Hashem. So then become the real existence because we become godly. And godliness is the real existence.
and that's what he wants.
That's what he wants. And he gave us that mission to do it. So instead of kvetching like a bunch of old Jews, kvetching, how do you say kvetching in Farsi? Nerza, whatever it is.
Isn't that a Jewish trait?
It is. A person is born a kvetch. So the bottom line is, instead of kvetching over, we should realize what we're accomplishing. Again, the whole universe is one word from Hashem's mouth. One word. And when a Jew does a mitzvah, they connect to the essence of Hashem. That's what Hashem wants. So he made all these symptoms. He made all these things, all these limitations, all this concealment, all that. He says, hide and go seek, I'm hiding, go find me.
Moshe,